So what has my latest project been? Well, we all, like, you know, I posted videos of me making these steady rests. So there was that. So I made the steady rests. Now I made the steady rests because I want to learn how to make cups and glasses. Because quite frankly, I'm sick and tired of making pipes and bongs, and I don't even make bongs. I'm just tired of making pipes. And you know, marbles are cool, and I like making marbles. Christmas ornaments are always going to be my go-to, but I need to expand my skill set a little bit. So, what did I do? Well, I did a couple things. The one thing that I did was I made my torch movable. Now, I watched a video on a dude making like these really fancy scientific glass blown drinking glasses, vessels, what have you, and they were really cool. I mean, it was totally enamored by this guy. That was actually the inspiration for making these steady rests in multiples of more than just what I had. His were like crazy, but the short answer is I made the simplest one I possibly could. I made the simplest ones I possibly could to do what I wanted to do. And what I want to do is I want to be able to move glass and not be doing this. I needed to smooth out my process. The other is repeatability. If you're going to be making something where you have to make a lot of them, make a jig, or buy a tool to do it, or in my case, make the tool to do it. So I did a couple different things. One of the things that I did, and I'm going to start right off with this, is I made a counterweight for these. So I made a counterweight, or I guess you could call it a counterweight. I made a stabilizer for these. And one of the big problems I've had with these, even I've had this problem with pretty much both iterations of this, the original and these. And one of the things is the glass gets really tippy, okay? It has a tendency to get tippy if it's too long. It'll, ironically, I don't. Okay, so you see how it's real tippy here? And if I was to run it way far forward, it gets real tippy. The best way to show that is doing it this way. So, see how tippy that is? Now, I can take this, set it down. I didn't take that into consideration. Well, actually, you know what, it still works. And now I can control this I can control it with weight on it. Okay, so it makes my life a little bit easier. It looks like I may have to put a stop in this. I hadn't done it with a rod yet, so I'm gonna have to put a stop in it. And you know what, doesn't matter. The other thing I'm gonna do is trim the end of this off, because this is just asking to break something. But this is also a prototype of a larger apparatus that I'm gonna build for sure. But you can see this is really wobbly and floppy. The reason it's really wobbly and floppy is when I was joining this piece, this is actually works much better with the larger tubing here. Put the larger tubing in. Like I said, this is a prototype, but this is kind of, that's what this is for. So this keeps this weight on here, and it kind of holds it in place a little bit. It holds it in place from going like this. So that was the first project, and like I said, I got to cut this off, but we'll get to that later. All right, I'm going to move that out of the way. So now let's take a look at what the issue. Why is it floppily and wobbly? So it's floppily and wobbly because of this. Okay, so it was doing this, right? So I couldn't get a good joint, a good parallel joint on it, while I had, see how it's doing that? So if I put this on here, like that, Now it'll stay in place, okay? So I can take my hand off of it. Now, what was the other project that I did today? This is the other project. Wink, 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 wink. All right. Wink, wink. Now, how did I accomplish that? Truth be told, this has been like a 4-day process for me to make this torch do this. And the truth of the matter is, I overthunk this project. Actually, I didn't overthink the project. Now, let me clarify that. I did not overthink this project. I did, but not completely overthink the project. My original intention and my original game plan, I put these little casters on the bottom of these so I can just move these around. And they're still pretty heavy. They don't want to move a whole lot, but I could move them a little tiny bit real easy. Right? So that's the other thing. Casters are pretty cool. I like them. They were worth the money. So, to make the torch move in and out is vital to make basically what I've built here is a hand lathe work properly. I'm not going to turn the torch on right now because I actually want to use my new camera mount to do that. So, I can also turn it back here. I can turn it here. I may have to move. The counterweight a little bit, one way or the other. Actually, because it's so heavy, I can probably just leave it where it is and move this back further, or I can move this in this way. So I get this. This is working out pretty good. So, what am I doing here, or how did I accomplish this? Well, what I did was I mounted I mounted the torch on a drawer slide. So I milled a piece of I milled a piece of 2x4 nice and square so I could mount the drawer slides on it. And then I went through this whole rigmarole basically of thinking of like, how am I going to make this thing do what I want it to do with the least amount of input from me. Though my original game plan was to make this whole thing out of steel and all kinds of other crazy shit, and I didn't do that because I didn't feel like getting my welders out. I have wood. There's no reason not to make this thing out of wood. It's not going to burn. You know what? And if it burns, I'll make another one. Steel would have been too heavy. I didn't feel like dragging my TIG welder out and making it out of aluminum. So the trade-off was to make it out of wood. So the first iteration of this design was to use a gas strut to force the torch out at all times. Okay, so that was the first iteration. And I actually went to Napa and I bought the lightest weight gas strut that I could buy at Napa, which was 40 pounds. You know, I pressed in on it at the store and it seemed like, okay, I could do that. Not in a million years was I going to be able to mount that thing underneath this bench and gently and calmly push this in. It worked. It worked poorly. So I went to trusty old Amazon and I ordered a 10-pound, 20-inch rod gas strut. 10 pounds, my fat ass. This thing requires a minimum of 25 pounds to compress it. So I couldn't think of a way, or, well, at the time, I hadn't really considered a way to move the torch out. Okay, I had only ever considered using the strut rod, because that's the simplest, most elegant way to do it, is to have a gas strut rod out, and then a foot pedal underneath. Okay, so there's the foot pedal, and a pulley. You can see there's a pulley. And a pulley to change the direction down to the floor, so I could just step on the pedal. So I could step on the pedal. The native position of the torch would be away from the glass. I'm umming a lot, so I'm making this up as I go. So the native position for the torch would be away from the glass, so I could have a couple seconds or minutes, or however long I needed to work the glass away from the direct heat of the torch, so the direct fire of the torch. So when the torch is moved in, it's precisely where I want it to be, and then I could take my foot off the pedal, like the accelerator pedal of a car, and the torch would move out. That was my game plan. And obviously it failed spectacularly. I went through every single thing I could possibly think of to get this system to work. I put 30 pounds of weight on the end of that pedal to act as to help it move, right? To make it neutral. That didn't work. So then I had an epiphany that I would use pulleys and whatnot. So I had an improvised block and tackle with all kinds of cables and stuff underneath this thing. Wouldn't do it. It literally wouldn't do it. As a matter of fact, I swear, because of the rolling resistance of the pulleys that I had constructed, it made it even harder to move. So I had always built in a knee stop. So this knee stop, this was always here. Well, what I ended up doing was just lengthening it all the way down to the floor. So I can pull the torch out with my foot. The pedal comes up, the torch goes down. Pedal goes up, foot goes down. So that is by far the easiest way I could figure out how to do this. I spent pretty much, well, truth be told, I spent 2 days trying to figure out how to get the gas strut to work, and I paid $40 for the gas strut from Napa. This one was $20, and I ordered it from Amazon. So basically, I wasted that money. And at the end of the day, I built it with shit that I had laying around. I had the pulley, I had the power cord, I had all that stuff. And quite frankly, there you go. The thing moves in and out, slicker than snot. I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to mount the camera above me so you can get a real good idea of what I'm doing. Now, the next project is going to be to build a lathe that is powered by a low speed or a speed controllable DC motor. That's my next adventure with this project. Is it going to work? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can pull that one off. I'm fairly sure I can. I'm a pretty smart guy. I have access to a facility that actually specializes in low-speed DC motors. That's one of the things that they use at the machine shop extensively. So I could probably even just pick one out of their trash pile and figure out a way to drive these two wheels. I'm honestly thinking that the easiest way to do it is to mount the motor on this counter arm here. I understand this is all wiggly. I'm thinking the easiest way to do it would be to put two drive wheels on the top here, or one drive wheel is really all it needs. Would be a drive wheel with a speed controller so I could control the speed, and then mount this as the carriage. A traditional glass lathe, the carriage, the headstocks stay put, and the lathe and the torch moves. Mine is going to be the tailstock, and it would only be, or the headstock would move, and the torch stays put. So the torch would be able to be moved in and out, and left and right to a lesser extent, but in and out, and then move the torch, or move the lathe, the hand lathe, basically. That's what this is. This is a hand lathe, in and out, along its axis. So basically, there you go. I can post the 40 minutes of video that I shot previous to this one. I don't really think it's important. It's basically just me sitting here scratching my ass trying to figure out how to do this the most elegant way possible. I wasted so much time and money with a linear thinking that this was the only way to do this, when the reality of it is this was my very first plan to begin with, was just a simple foot thing for my foot was my original game plan from the very, very, very inception of this. Actually, my very, 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 very first inception of this was to put an arm rest out here that I could move with my arm, and then it dawned on me, well, I can't do that. I can't. It would throw everything off axis. So this is much better, and then I can even move back a little if I have to. Do whatever fiddly bits that I need to do. This thing's so out of whack, I might just fling it out into the yard. So do whatever fiddly joint that I need to do. Moving the torch in and out to control my heat, and then there you go. Now, thanks for watching. I know this wasn't my most exciting video, and I know I rambled and babbled on a little bit. If you have any questions about how I did it or what I did, I skipped over all the running the saw and the drills and all that stuff, because quite frankly, if you've seen one asshole run a saw, you've seen them all. I more wanted to show, or want to show, what my thought process was. The basic